in their letter dated May 20th, 2008, talks about the last fiscal year projects, their anticipated funding going forward, and where they would anticipate our revenues would assist with the leverage that they're talking about is I think Supervisor Wattenberger addressed it. They're saying it's about $66 to 1, and they're talking about the return on the investment for fiscal year 08-09. So there are some details here that are in the reading file.
Okay, good. So, in looking at this with EMS and fire, the one thing I would say is that I do think that we're further along because we are zeroing in on a particular strategy around local funding. Ultimately, it will take voter support, and, we'll have to see where that goes. But I think that as a local response, that is a viable option. And could it be handled within this fiscal year? Probably we wouldn't see the results this fiscal year, but I certainly think that within the next several months, we should have an idea of what, whether or not it truly is viable and what it would take to get to that. And that's looking at the county services area and addressing it through that angle, which actually can deal with both EMS as well as fire, as well as law enforcement and a variety of other intertwined topics. So that's something that we're looking at. As we come up with a work plan, it may be that if you want to move it through quickly, we might need some contract support, and we'd have to look at that. But certainly in looking at how Ukiah Valley Fire District put together their packet so that they could look at impact fees, it's very helpful to have someone with experience be able to put that packet together. Could staff do it? Yes. It'd just take us a whole lot longer because we've got other things to do in the meantime. So when we come forward, we will not only come forward with what we think is a solution, but also what it would take to reach kind of an implementation stage on that solution.
I look forward to that. Supervisor Colfax.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that's something we need to be doing, but I'm sympathetic to Supervisor Pinch's point about needing to put more money into it. Maybe it's just because we represent, in some ways, some of the lesser served areas, or the areas in which the needs are more apparent. Which raises then a question here. I don't think moving the 25,000 from one category to another is adequate here. But in terms of procedure, and we haven't gotten into this at this point, but I would propose here in this setting that we should be putting in $50,000 more into this category as a sign that we are working on it as evidence, and also providing services that are not going to be provided unless we make this kind of funding available. So the question I throw to the board at this particular juncture is this the time at which we throw in something into the parking lot or drive something into the parking lot? And if so, I would like to simply say here, this is simply not enough money for this need. We put up a couple $100,000 last round. To drop to $50,000 this round is kind of, no matter how you cut it, it looks like we're backing away from the problem. If it means we need the money to get talented consulting assistants, specialists to move some of these concepts forward, that's another matter, and we'll visit that when we need the funding, presumably. But at this juncture here, I think $50,000 is just a backing away. Sends the wrong message to the people who are out there volunteering and are relying on us to come up with more in the way of support, at least an acknowledgement that we're doing our best under very bad circumstances.
Thanks, Supervisor. Supervisor Pinches?
Well, I would certainly second that motion to put the $50,000. Certainly it's not enough, but it's better than nothing, which we started out with here 20 minutes ago. So I guess that's where I was a little bit reluctant in my support of the Resource Conservation District, but in light of the good work they do, and they do, I really think to keep the ambulances rolling is a little more important. We can always take a little more out of the contingency if we want to support the Resource Conservation District, but I would certainly support the $50,000 figure. It's better than nothing. It's right. It's not as good as last year, but everybody understands how the finances went in last year too. But I would certainly support the $50,000 figure for the ambulances.
Okay, so as I take it, this is an item of $50,000 to add to the list, the parking list, is that correct, Supervisor?
That's my, yes.
Your direction, and you're supporting that, and I'll support that at this time, and Supervisor Delaware.
And just out of curiosity, the source of this 50,000 is what? Did we find some during lunch that I was unaware of?
I would say that if you want to redeem something out of the parking list or lot or whatever you want to call it, that would be identifying the funding that would go along with it. And that's the point at which, with a majority board support, it would go actually onto the spreadsheet. So at this point, I'm not aware of where all that 50,000 would come from. And so,
Okay,
I guess that's kind of my concern here, because I'd love to throw a bunch of stuff up there, things up there too, and as long as I don't have to come up with a funding source for them, it's not that hard.
well, as long as you want to
Finding
stay
the
in
funding source for
parking
them is a little
lot.
more of a challenge, but I